think I'll cross and take my mans out, just kill yourself. In the trenches, 40 on my hip, I had to fix my back.
I guess we just watch this this one first. Already on it, bro. Alright. This is how scary good was Romario, really, bro. Let's see, dog. Romario back with the good videos, dog.
Many footballing legends over the generations. They've always been known for their amazing skill.
Wait, why does it seem so low?
And overall grace with the football at their feet. And when you think of Brazil's greatest, I'm sure many of you have similar answers. But if I showed you this picture right here, for example, who do you recognize least? I'm willing to bet it's this guy right here, Romario, one of Brazil's greatest goal scorers of all time, and the man nearly twice as many goals as his successor, Ronaldo. But for some reason, not many football fans give him his respect or even know much about him or his career. So let's take a look. How good was he? Romario's future as a footballer was obvious to himself early in life. He knew it's what he wanted to do as young as 13 years old, where he would watch local football club Olaria and dream of playing for them. So that's exactly what he did. Olaria would sign Romario to their youth squad at the age of 13, where he would develop rapidly. He would want to move on to bigger clubs, so he tried joining regional giants Vasco da Gama, only to get rejected by their head coach, saying Romario was too small to make a significant impact in any matches. Despite his small size, Romario did have incredible speed and strong legs, which he made known when, ironically, during a friendly match against Vasco da Gama, he would go on to score 4 goals, which impressed them so much that they practically begged him to come back and sign with their club.
So that's crazy. They rejected him at one point, and he started going crazy. Not even his body.
Romario would win 2 state championships and scored 73 goals in 123 matches over the next 4 years. A .59 goals per game ratio against pretty much older kids for the remainder of his youth career. What's more impressive is that he was the tournament leading scorer with 7 goals in the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, and scored the only goal against Uruguay during the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, and scored the only goal against Uruguay during the 1989 Copa America final, achieving all this at the age of 21. And during his time, the only mid-final, achieving all this at the age of 21. And during his time, the only man who came close to as much glory for Brazil at the same age was no other than Pele himself. Romario's popularity in his country exploded, and many believed him to be the next all-time great from Brazil. In his country exploded, and
nigga, if you put your leg down, boy,
to be the next all-time great from Brazil, a very heavy expectation to hold on your shoulders, especially at a young age. There was no doubt in many people's heads that Romario would become one of the greats. He was that prolific, and it was obvious to anyone who saw him play. Before him, there was no other previous wonder kid who had nearly the same amount of potential in Brazil, other than Pele. He would pave the way for the many that would come after him. Romario would build his legacy from then on out. And like Romario, if you'd like a chance to build your legacy, Squarespace is the perfect all-in-one platform with or go to a Brazilian player to make a move to Europe. His predecessor Pele had never made such a decision before, so in many aspects, Romario pioneered the path for many future Brazilian talents to make the move to play in Europe. Before, it was more common for them to want to stay in Brazil to play for their domestic league, so Romario became a trendsetter in the country. Romario would sign with Dutch club PSV shortly after his international success with Brazil. In fact, Hus Hiddink, the club's manager at the time, called him the most interesting player he's ever handled. He recalls Romario being so confident that he would come up to him and say, "Take it easy, coach. I'm going to score and we're going to win." And recalls that 8 times out of 10, he would be right. In his first year, he would help the club retain their Eredivisie title,
scoring. Calling out shit just like me. Let me tell you. He really told the coach he was gonna win, and it happened all the time. That's literally something I'll be doing. Anyways, I do be laughing out loud, just not all the time. I don't know why.
0.76 goals per game ratio. Romario was already gaining popularity throughout Europe as a young baller, and certainly was a motivation and icon to all the young generation footballers back home in Brazil. In his second year, Romario would have an explosive season, scoring 31 goals in 29 appearances, averaging a goal every 1.06 games, once again securing the Eredivisie title for his club, while also being named the Dutch Footballer of the Year and the Champions League top goal scorer. And it didn't stop there. Romario was a prolific player that was scoring goals outside the pitch as well. Romario became notorious for throwing crazy parties. The man had parties at his place every weekend, inviting women and local celebrities. So much so that he essentially
He low-key
recreated
faded
every
in a
weekend.
hole.
though, bruh.
Boy.
Oh yeah, boy. He plays the whole shit. He plays the whole thing by himself.
Inviting women and local celebrities. So much so that he essentially recreated
Alright, you got some hoes in that bitch.
the night scene
I ain't gonna lie.
in the Netherlands. You know that they love their partying. Well, Romario seems to have pioneered
Mario.
I'm about to rethink that. You can't see me play with her. What the hell? What the fuck?
that as well.
Yeah,
The prime of Romario's life could be summarized by
Ah!
football and partying. Two things he was insanely good at. His third season saw him scoring 30 goals in 30 appearances, becoming the Netherlands' top goal scorer for 3 years in a row. And the man did this with his simple formula of scoring goals, being fast and knowing how to finish with the most difficult of circumstances. Combine that with his ice-cold composure around the goal box, and you have a goal-scoring machine. Romario would continuously blow past defenders and tap the ball in, keeping it simple yet incredibly effective. As Romario's footballing stock skyrocketed, so did his ego. He once boldly proclaimed that when he was born, God himself pointed to him and said, "That's my guy." Now, of course, it's a joke, but the man's confidence was unmatched. And when you're that great, sometimes you get a pass. However, it became a problem when he started to demand more than just being in PSV. Romario would end his time in the Netherlands after 4 years, scoring a total of 128 goals in 149 appearances, a .86 goals per game ratio. That's when the legend and father of modern football, Johan Cruyff, recruited Romario to play for Barcelona. Cruyff was building a dynasty in Spain, and Romario was the last piece of the puzzle. This 1993-94 Barcelona squad would consist of players like Ronald Koeman, Pep Guardiola, Michael Laudrup, and Hristos Stoichkov. Romario would lead the club in scoring with 30 goals. Michael Laudrup and Hristos Stoichkov. Romario would lead the club in scoring with 30 goals in 32 league match appearances, becoming the club and La Liga top goal scorer, ultimately ending the season with 32 goals and 20 assists in 47 appearances. Barcelona were the most dominant club in the world. They were so good that everyone thought they were the favorites to win the Champions League. They
That was Tom Cruise for a minute, bro.
would tear and destroy teams on their way to the final, where they would face AC Milan. In fact, even back then, Paolo Maldini admits he thought that Barcelona were the heavy favorites to win the match, especially with Romario and Stoichkov at the top. But as history would have it, Milan would famously trash them 4-0 to win the European Cup. This team was a force, but as many sources would have it, they came into the match with the attitude of just collecting the cup, not competing for it. Romario would win the League Cup with Barcelona, but the European final loss was tough to handle. Later that year, Romario would redeem himself for the 1994 World Cup in the US. He had never gotten a real chance to represent his country in the world's biggest stage. In the previous 1990 World Cup, Romario was the most anticipated player in his country, but was injured and barely only played one of the group stage matches. Now he was out to prove himself to the world and this time secure the win. Romario would have a crazy start to the tournament, scoring a goal against Russia, Cameroon, and Sweden during the group stages, then scoring another one against the Netherlands in the quarterfinal, and finally scored the game-winning goal against Sweden in the semi-final. Though the final ended in a goalless 3-2 penalty shootout win over Italy, everyone knew that Romario was the man who carried Brazil to their 4th ever World Cup title, ending the tournament with 5 goals and 3 assists for his country. Romario became a hero in Brazil, and finally did what many of his countrymen believed he could all the way back when he was just an up-and-coming young star that won them the 1989 Copa America. Romario was also the last player to ever win the World Cup Golden Ball and win the World Cup trophy in the same tournament. Sounds crazy, but I looked it up and it's surprisingly true. So leave a like if you didn't know that either. Throughout that entire World Cup tournament, and even before, Romario would take an interest in an 18-year-old Ronaldo, who was on that World Cup winning team but didn't play a single match. However, Romario would mentor him as he's been seeing his immense potential back in Brazil, sort of reminding him of himself back when he was the same age. Romario would help Ronaldo make the decision to go to Europe and follow his footsteps in joining the same club, PSV. And the rest was history. Whether he knew it or not, it was at that moment where Romario would pass the torch to his successor, just as he had taken it from Pele all of those years ago. Romario would also be named the 1994 FIFA World Player of the Year after having finished second place in the same award just a year ago, already having one of the greatest resumes in football history by the time he was 28. However, the following season, Romario and Cruyff would have a falling out, as the two had a very different approach and attitude towards the game of football. Romario was more carefree while Cruyff was more calculating. He would leave Barcelona to return to his country and play for Flamengo. While many, including myself, might think he should have spent his prime years in Europe, the man did what he wanted. Many, including myself, might think he should have spent his prime years.
Why the fuck he almost went out the frame? What the
Years
fuck?
in Europe, the man did what he wanted. And he really loved staying in Brazil, so you can't really blame the guy. Romario was always a wild card, but he felt best at home. In Flamengo, Romario would dominate the Brazilian league, scoring a total of 184 goals in 209 appearances, a .88 goals per game ratio over the course of 5 seasons with the club. His amazing form would get him called up for Brazil's 1997 Copa America campaign. The infamous row-row attacking lineup of Brazil consisted of Romario and Ronaldo. Just imagine being a defender and going up against two of Brazil's all-time greatest strikers. That must have been a scary sight for the other team. Brazil would absolutely destroy the competition, scoring 7-0 against Peru in the semifinal and beating Bolivia 3-1 in the final to win the trophy. This would be Romario's second Copa America title, and as he was already the country's hero during his first title win, this time, however, belonged to Ronaldo. It all came back full circle, and it was an amazing sight to see mentor and pupil playing side by side. Romario would also win the 1997 FIFA Confederations Cup, Golden Shoe, and Silver Ball, as Brazil led the world ranking in the tournament, which many believed to be a preview of the World Cup. Things were looking incredible for Brazil, and it seemed like Romario would have a pretty good chance at winning yet another World Cup title. However, when it came to the infamous 1998 World Cup in France, Romario would be left out of the squad as he suffered a muscular...
When did this nigga get bought? Am I tripping?
He been bought for a couple clips.
1998 World Cup in France, Romario would be left out of the squad as he suffered a muscular injury. He was devastated that he couldn't play for his country and broke down in a press conference saying how difficult it was to watch instead of being on the pitch. This would have been his last chance to shine in the World Cup stage, and Brazil made it all the way to the final before facing a crushing defeat against tournament host France, led by Zinedine Zidane. Who knows, had Romario been healthy, maybe the outcome of that match would have been way different. During this time, Romario had come back to Europe to play for Valencia in Spain's La Liga, where unfortunately he was mostly injured and only played a total of 12 matches in 2 years. He would again return to Brazil to play for Flamengo, where he would make a tremendous recovery and quickly get back to form, scoring 116 goals in 130 appearances, a staggering .89 goals per game ratio, winning yet another Rio de Janeiro title with the club. In 2000, Romario would go back to his very first professional club, Vasco da Gama, the same club that had once denied him as a youngster, saying he was too small to be a great footballer. Now, way past his mid-30s, Romario was still absolutely balling out. For the next 3 seasons with the club, he would score 132 goals and 135.
Bro, you cannot stop this.
For the next 3 seasons,
it's like you can't. You know you can time it. It's like you already gotta
when
be
it fails, already inside.
So you gotta be already in here or some shit, but
or 132 goals in 135 appearances, a mind-blowing .98 goals per game ratio, and the man did it between the ages of 35 and 37, while also finally winning his very first and only Serie A title and the Copa Mercosur title, where he scored a hat-trick, including the game-winning goal against rival club Palmeiras, where they were down 3-0 before halftime to make a huge comeback and win the final. Being named the South American
so many holes. A hat-trick,
including the
bro, you did not. Ruby did not get a face tattoo you on her ass.
Turn it.
Mercosur title, where he scored a hat-trick, including the game-winning goal against rival club Palmeiras, where they were down 3-0 before halftime to make a huge comeback and win the final. Being named the South American Footballer and Brazilian Footballer of the Year, while finishing as the top scorer of the Brazilian League once more. However, for as good of a form as he had late in his career, Romario was still the same old wildcard. He pulled out of Brazil's 2001 Copa America squad and was excluded from the 2002 World Cup winning squad for lack of discipline, as he claimed he had surgery but was playing friendly matches with his club and going on vacation, which his coach and teammates didn't really appreciate. If the man had just practiced discipline for a couple more years, he would have had another World Cup win under his belt. And if he had, many, many more people would remember him as one of the all-time greatest. It wouldn't be long when Romario, after getting multiple injuries in the late stages of his career and bouncing around many clubs, including teams in Qatar, America, and Australia, finally decided to hang his boots and retire, ending his career as one of the greatest strikers in history and retiring as the 4th highest goal scorer of all time, as well as being Brazil's 4th all-time goal scorer while holding the 2nd highest goal scoring ratio, just under Pele. In my opinion, one of the greatest strikers who have ever lived and arguably Brazil's 2nd greatest player. But what do you guys think of Romario? Where would you rank him? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to leave a like and a recommendation on what video you want next. Lastly, make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.
Yeah, bro. I don't know where to rank him, but he was actually tough though. He won so many stuff.
What's up, O?
Like, what's good, bro?
Belly trucks with semi-suck, La Harlem turn the city up. Be wild and don't get any fucks. We block stars, they